As far as the outcomes or the diversity of roles, it really is what's showing up at the table. I don't necessarily have a menu. It's really the chef being God giving me different meals, and I'm like, I either am allergic to this shit and will not be eating it, or yeah, I'm gonna take a bite. Holy cow, that's the best thing I've ever had. And I almost sent it back to the kitchen.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Paul Walter Hauser is an actor. He sat down with me in cyberspace to talk about the work. Do you have a typical way you like to begin your preparation process when you get a new character?
Yeah, the first step is a little more about self-amusement. So I look at Tanya when I had the audition in 2016, and I go, you get to play kind of a crazy person. You get to play someone who lacks self-awareness. You have some really funny lines that Steven Rogers wrote. You have scenes with Margot Robbie, who's awesome. So a lot of it is just the beginning is the trappings of what do I get to do, which is no different than anybody. If a whole family goes to a carnival, it's like, well, the mom is going to get to take photos for Instagram. The kids are going to get to play games. The dad's going to eat a funnel cake and a chili dog. We all get to do something at the carnival, you know.
This is a good analogy because what do? You first like gather around the map, right?
Yeah.
And see what's at the carnival.
100%.
I want to do this. I want to do that. Mom can do this.
And not every actor. I don't know how other actors do it, but for me, it's like it's immediately selfish, and it's like, what's in it for me? And then if I feel like there's something in it for me in any regard, I then step two is what can I bring to make this good? Because if I want to do it, but I don't know how to do it, I'm not going to do it. I've never done that in my entire career. I have never chosen something selfishly that I wanted to do, but didn't feel I actually knew how to do it. Because once again, you're not in service to anyone. Now it's a disservice. And those cracks in your sort of falsity or fabrication will end up communicating to the audience that you aren't the guy for the part. And then you're going to get judged for it anyway. And instead of celebrating it and saying, look what I got to do, it's going to be like, look what you didn't do right. So it's look at the carnival map. Do I have the tool set to do this? And then find all the ways in which you want to do it. And I mark up my script, and sometimes it's really phonetic writing where I'll take a word and I'll go, I want to say it literally like this. And I'll cross out the word and rewrite it in the way I would want. And sometimes they do that in scripts where they're like, not only is this a Southern accent, we're going to tell you how to say it. And you read it and it's phonetically specific. But yeah, I would say those are the first three steps: are map it out, find my tools, and if I got my tools, start getting to work. And then procrastination comes in, where you secretly don't want to do any work. But it depends on the role. If I'm playing Teddy Roosevelt, you better believe I'm going to be chopping wood and riding horses and writing journals and shit. But if you put me in a comedy, like, I don't need to prep that. I was very lucky that I was born with the funny gene, and I'm riding it out. So yeah, it depends on the project too.
When you talk about tools, tell me where these tools came from, because you didn't have training, right? Are these tools that just developed through experience, or are you talking about tools that you always had?
I think they're just kind of humanistic rather than like learned behaviors, or maybe they're learned but they're human. I don't know how best to describe that, but what I will say is a lot of it is empathy. If you don't have empathy, you're probably a shit actor. If you're a not good guy in real life and you're mean spirited and you don't have empathy, you're probably not a good actor. You'll be really good at one thing and you'll make a career off it, but you'll never have diversity, really.
I have secretly always believed this.
To me, empathy is super important. Can I be empathetic? Having a point of view on the character and saying, like, okay, he's the assistant to the villain, but what is his Rosencrantz and Guildenstern peripheral? What is his thing that he's thinking about while he's in the movie? Can you have a full life for a smaller role? And specificity is everything for me, where I talk to the prop master and I go, here are some props I need. Can we find these? Can we collaborate on this? I'll talk to the camera operator and say, hey man, in this next take, I think I'm going to do a pratfall. Just get ready to tilt down. Which I've done that on like 4 movies where I've been like, I'm going to tell the camera operator what to do because of what I'm going to improvise, quote unquote, in a film.
And no one else, though. You only tell him or her?
Sometimes I'll tell the director, but sometimes I don't because I'm like, I'm not going to have them veto something.
Right.
Brilliant.
As you've said many times, you'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yeah. So yeah, little tricks like that. And that, at the end of the day, you do all of those things to inform yourself so you have confidence and purpose. And then when you show up, you kind of have to not be overly itinerant and you have to be in the moment and you have to allow yourself to let the thing breathe. It doesn't mean there's no exactitude. Sometimes I do things very particularly, very specific, but at the same time, you really do have to just be listening and living. And that's a struggle for all human beings, not just actors.
Yeah.
So if you have a great scene partner and you did your homework, then you can sit in a room with Sam Rockwell and improvise a monologue. And it's not painstaking because you did the homework, you're in it, you're listening, and you got an amazing, unforgettable scene partner.
Because you seem to thrive with that kind of thing, improvisation or just the spontaneity, is something like rehearsal something that is not so welcomed by you?
Not at all. I love rehearsal. Rehearsal is just doing the homework with other people. And, rehearsal's a luxury. People wish they had rehearsal, I think. There are a lot of old timers who are like, let's just show up and do it. But that's because their knee hurts. They're angry about never winning an Academy Award, and they wish they were doing something bigger. It has nothing to do with actual, process, I don't think. So, yeah, I love rehearsal. I did it on Late Night. I did it on Tanya. I did it on Blackbird. I did it on Jewell. Tanya, I didn't do a lot, though, and I think the key is to do some but not a lot, because some will inform choices, but you do too much, and then suddenly your scene partner is like, well, I'm assuming they're going to do it the way they did it out of character when we had brunch at the director's office, and that's not good.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you were saying, like, you never do anything that you can't do. But something like Richard Jewell, right, must have been really scary.
Yes and no. Yeah.
But wait, what's the no? Because you had this guy figured out, kind of?
The no is, here's the no. I look just like this dude. I'm ready to star in a film.
Yeah.
I have vulnerability. I feel misunderstood or disliked. I have a lot of insecurity. I have a weight problem. He had a weight problem. He wanted to be this G.I. Joe, and he was a, crossing guard. So there's so much there already where I go, look at what I get to do. I have every tool to murder this part, and now I'm going to dive in. Mm-hmm. So no in that sense. Yes, in the sense that I'm a human being. So when I wake up at 6 a.m. and I'm going out to my car service to take me to set, like I'm blaring Kendrick Lamar and worship music from Christian artists, and I'm chugging Starbucks cold brew and I'm pounding my chest and I'm punching the dashboard because I'm getting hyped where I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
you're starring in a $40 million Warner Brothers biopic that Clint Eastwood is directing. Don't fuck it up. Like it's so yes and no. I know I'm capable, but my humanity and my demons are constantly trying to prove otherwise.
I heard you say that when you met Richard Jewell's mother, you asked her questions like you wanted to know what he ate and like what shows he watched. When you take that information, what does that do for you in terms of helping you literally do these scenes that you have to do that have nothing to do with what he's eating or what he's watching? You know what I mean? Like, I think, you'd figure by now, after 200 and some episodes of asking actors stuff like this, I'd know this by now. But I think everyone is different about what they do with that information.
When you don't go to acting school, you end up making up your own beliefs and curriculum, which can be good and bad.
Right.
But for me, I don't need to ask her, like, how did Richard feel when he was accused of bombing the Olympics? Like, there's so many emotional components that are very self-explanatory based on the situation and the screenplay itself. I don't need to ask those questions. I do want to ask the trivial stuff because most of life is really trivial. And if you tell me that you love Ryan Murphy and you don't talk to your parents anymore, I can deduce 600 things about you. I can. And it's not because I'm a genius. It's because we all have a choice to be socially cognizant and take contextual clues and etc. The same way, and just to even the score, if you tell me you watch Tucker Carlson and your dad was in the military, I can tell you 600 other things about you. So it's just like people are people, and rather than get wrapped up in some sort of cerebral grandiosity, it's always better to keep it grounded and find out regular things that are indicative of greater truths.
Yes. Yeah. But like, let's just say like you found out he eats grape nuts as a cereal, like, which is such a fucking weird cereal. I eat grape nuts, but I'm like, I don't even know why I eat it. It's not really good. Do you know what I mean? Like, would this suddenly open up something to be like, holy shit, like that's 100%. A fucking weird thing.
100%. That just means that's you tell me Richard Jewell eats grape nuts. I'm going to say, oh, he's either trying to lose weight or that's some bit of nostalgia.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or his father, he was told that his father ate grape nuts, and that's some sort of conscious or unconscious connection to that which isn't present.
Yes. And I think one of those is mine. Like, I think my dad ate grape nuts. I'm trying to figure out why, like, of all the cereals to eat, like, you know what I mean? Like, you might as well choose, like, it's not that healthy. It's not that healthy.
You got to get you some Lucky Charms, homie. We got to get you on that Raisin Bran Crunch, bro.
Another thing you said, which I keep thinking about, that I need to ask you about. I think you were talking about Larry Hall, your character you play in Blackbird. You were talking about how you're kind of disturbed by the things you had to literally think about because you wanted it to be in your eyes.
Yes.
And you're like, if you don't think about that, it's not going to be in the eyes. And I the reason why I've been thinking about this since I heard you say it is because I'm thinking of all the times where I'm watching actors and they don't have that in their eyes. And I'm like, oh man, this is so like, they're not there. They're not getting, but the real question is like, do you really think that you have to think about that to have it in your eyes? In other words, like, can you do the thing where you're thinking about something, it doesn't have to be as disturbing. Something will be in your eyes. And I will perceive it as the audience as that disturbing thing. And it'll be healthier for you to be doing it. And I'll still think it's in your eyes. Like, is it that possible? Or is it really that you have to actually be thinking of the disturbing thing in order for it to authentically be in your eyes?
That's a really intelligent, invasive question. I mean, I have to go back to other people I watch, right? So when Daniel Day-Lewis plays Bill the Butcher, which is funny to mention him because one of his eyes isn't even his eye, right?
Right.
But when Daniel Day-Lewis plays Bill the Butcher, I believe that he kind of wants to put a knife in the ribs of everyone he sees.
Yeah.
And then you have him as Daniel Plainview and There Will Be Blood. And I don't believe he wants to stab everyone he sees because he doesn't want to get blood on his hands.
Mm.
So he will find another way to stab you, which is, of course, manipulation and stealing land and whatever the hell. I see it in their eyes. And with Daniel Plainview, it's a lot of arrogance. And with Bill the Butcher, it's a lot of rage. I heard, and I don't know if it's true, but I had heard that Daniel Day-Lewis would listen to Eminem sometimes to get into character for Bill the Butcher, which doesn't line up with the period thing where he's like, I need to wear the wool coat from 1740. Like, I don't know that that's true, but it is this idea that you need to embody the thing. Because if you fake, like, I don't know, I can't say anything empirically, like it's just one person's opinion, but my guess is that the greats, the really good ones who people talk about after they're dead, are the guys and gals who really kind of emotionally lived it and you saw it in the eyes. So for me, that's the only way I know how to do it. I don't want to kidnap and murder young women, which is what Larry Hall famously did many times. So I can't convincingly make you believe that unless I start thinking the thoughts and deluding myself. And, many people have warped minds, not warped because they're sick, but warped because they're human. And we've all thought of the theoretical nature of all bad things, yes, whether it's mutilation or rape or the world coming to an end or there being no God. We all have to kind of go there in our heads, if even for seconds, even if it stays for 2 seconds. People would be liars to say that they have not encountered imagery or thoughts or even delved in too long and thought too long about something. So I just allow myself in those moments to go there, and I pray over myself and I talk to Jesus and I say, hey, please don't let me get too wrapped up in this. Don't let it stick on me. And so I go there while I go there, and then I try to divorce my spirit from it. And most of the time that's not an issue. Every now and again, I feel an effect. If you leave a concert, you realize your hearing is a little bit different when you exit the building. It's that way with a character where your something, some sense or piece of you feels different. And you have to fight that with healthy choices and therapy and treating yourself well and shaking off the character and doing whatever you do, whether it's talking to God or, go hike at 5 a.m. and see the sunrise. Yeah,
it's one of the things that I like when you were talking and mentioning that, I was thinking of Philip Seymour Hoffman, and I think that he, part of that is that he went there. He went there and it was dark. And that darkness he had to deal with it. And he dealt with it in maybe unhealthy ways. And I keep thinking of that guy when I hear stuff like that.
I think there is a spiritual battle going on in people's heads and hearts. And one of the lies actors are told by these spiritual principalities, one of the lies actors believe is I have to be damaged and be hurting to be good. And I know friends who have felt that way. I know legendary actors who probably embody that. And you're like, wow, they never seem happy. Whatever it is, that is a lie. And any actor who's listening to this, who watched me and was like, you crushed it in Cruella or Richard Jewell or something. Hear me when I say this. You do not have to be a dark, unhappy person to be an effective actor who takes on dark, unhappy roles. It's untrue. So get that the fuck out of your head and know that your self-preservation of your spirit and your body, your health, is way more important than getting nominated for a Golden Globe. That's insane. But that's what our human nature will try to convince us of, and the town kind of hoists that up. A lot of people aren't vulnerable in talking about mental health.
Yeah.
They talk about an organization, but they won't open themselves up to it unless they kind of absolutely have to. And it's like, dude, you got to have a delineation, and you got to do more work on yourself than work on a character.
I want to believe that kind of thinking will slowly go away, especially when people like you who got there, who did the work, who, are getting accolades for playing dark people, dealing in darkness, say that. You know what I mean? Then eventually it's going to be like, okay, this is a incorrect theory. Like, we need to move on from this.
Yes.
And I think I want to believe that will happen.
Yeah. And from what I hear, I'm buddies with Rockwell, and he was very close to Phil. And he and everybody else say he was the most brilliant, fun, a laugh a minute type of guy. Like, he was not a dark, icky person. He just played some of those characters. So clearly something took a hold. I won't say what it is because I don't know, but Phil himself was this beautiful, beloved person by all who met and knew him.
Yes. It's so interesting when we look at what you've given us so far, the different type of roles, one side of, comedy to the other side, and able to do it in these different projects. And I think that is really setting you up. I hope this doesn't jinx you. Really setting you up for a good, healthy, diverse career, and I think you have a lot of choices now. I think that this, even like going and playing Stingray in Cobra Kai, was a huge beneficial choice you made. In terms of an audience just seeing this now, I feel like we don't know what to expect from you now, and I think that's a really good place to be, and you're still very young. How do you feel about this? Like, are you in a place now where you're looking at the landscape of what's available to you? Do you have a path that you want to take through this, or are you just taking it as it comes?
Well, for one, thanks for saying that. I appreciate that. You make the best decision you can in the moment, and you hope it turns out well. So Cobra Kai came to me late summer of 2018. Tanya had, done its business. Blackkklansman had just hit theaters. And these guys are like, hey, we have this character that we set aside for you. Like, we want you to do this. And in my head, I'm thinking like, we're rebooting the Karate Kid. It's on YouTube. Shouldn't a guy like me be jumping into a Ridley Scott movie or a Steven Soderbergh movie? I'm a really good actor. What am I doing here? I have lunch with them in Culver City after watching 3 episodes on my iPad, and I'm like, the show's really fun. You guys are really nice to me, and I like hanging out with you. And I need a job, so let's do it. And then it just so turns out that it's a hit show. It moves to Netflix. It becomes a massive hit. And now it's like a little family where I go back and play with them on occasion, and I get to do really cool stuff. And once again, if I get stopped during the day for people recognizing me, I would say 85% of it is Cobra Kai.
Wow.
So it's a wonderful experience for me. Another good example, just to kind of keep it in this lane of thinking, is a movie like National Anthem, which I did for this guy, Tony Toast. Assumedly, it comes out next year. We're waiting to see what it does. I think it's probably going to end up at Sundance, even though it's not official and no one's told me that. But they came to me and they said, hey, here's the script. You'd be playing opposite Sydney Sweeney. It'll shoot like a month and a half. Do you want to do it? And I look at it and I go, well, this doesn't pay a lot of money. It's a lower budget film. And even though the script is amazing, it's a first time director. Not a lot of money, first time director. Should I be looking for a Ridley Scott Soderbergh movie? But the reality is, dude, those movies don't come. They sometimes they do. Hence, Spike Lee, Clint Eastwood, some of the dudes I've worked with. But like, those things don't just show up all the time. I'm not getting phone calls from Denis Villeneuve or something. So when that script is that good, the director seems super cool. Sydney Sweeney's awesome, and it's a lead. It's like, yeah, I'm going to do it. Now, I had a blast doing that movie. I loved the experience. One of the best experiences I've had making a movie.
Wow.
Having said that, I don't know what it's going to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a movie.
Right.
And that's kind of the game you play with all this. So as far as the outcomes or the diversity of roles, it really is what's showing up at the table. I don't necessarily have a menu. It's really the chef, being God, giving me different meals. And I'm like, I either am allergic to this shit and will not be eating it or I'm going to take a bite. Holy cow, that's the best thing I've ever had. And I almost sent it back to the kitchen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that would be my analogy for that. And one other button to put on that is just that I make things that I always do food analogies, right? I love food so much. It's my favorite. I love cooking, etc. I will not make you a meal that I myself wouldn't heartily eat.
Mm.
So when I go to do a movie or a role, I have to look at it and go, would I want to pay $15 a ticket and pay for gas and pay for concessions and pay for a babysitter? Would I want to spend $80, $90 essentially to have the experience to watch this thing? And if I'm not going to do it. There are gaps of time, whether it's 3 weeks or 3 months, where I don't get to act. And part of it is, I'm not making money. I'm scared just because poverty mindset and where I came from versus where I'm at now. And then also part of it is, God, do I love creativity? God, do I love acting? God, do I love that environment that allows you to? So I will enter into a situation that is non-acting, and I will give it the same amount of love that I would give to acting, because that dedication, satisfaction, creativity matters. So like last night, I went out trick-or-treating with my 1.5-year-old and my wife, and I was in costume wearing glasses. I thought no one was going to recognize me. I got absolutely bombarded by parents talking about Blackbird and kids talking about Cobra Kai. And everybody I met, I gave them a crap ton of candy. I asked their name. I shook their hand. We took a selfie. I tried to engage in a brief but meaningful conversation, and then I moved on. But even that is me saying I miss performing. I miss engaging. How can I make this person laugh or make them feel seen in this moment? Which is acting in and of itself, because what is our real setting? Our natural setting is to be selfish. Our natural setting is to hibernate in our own shit. So, and then it goes into other things like cooking, where I don't just cook. I cook the best possible thing I can cook. I try to plate it well so the person feels like they're being treated well. And I try to make a ton of it so that if they want more, it's never going to stop. So it's just interesting I think there's a psychological thing going on between people like you and I, where we're recognizing what it is that makes us light up internally, and how we can put that out into the world the way the people that we love do it.
This is about connection then. Like, it's about human connection, deep down. But then you talked about the plating. That's art, though. It's almost like it's not so much about connection there. The combination of those two things, though, it's like connection and art. Like, you can get it from both kinds of things. It's not always about the connection. It could be alone in your studio making the art. Like, that's also communing. And I know you're a spiritual guy, so and I am too. So I think we can connect on this too, which is like they both are connecting with the infinite, though, aren't they?
100%, man. I'm glad you said it, because I was going to say it if you weren't, which is, the Bible talks about whatever you do it to the glory of God. Well, God loves people, and the two real commandments are love God and love people, love your neighbor. So when you love your neighbor, when you love your sibling or your literal neighbor next door or your boss or whoever, the better you love them, it's like you're honoring God. You honor God when you love people well. Because I can love people decent. It's not that it's not love. It's that I would rather write a check to an organization than show up at the doorstep of the organization. And it's not unlove. It's just there's different levels. And I think as we get older, the hope is that we realize this is maybe the only thing that this is like the only thing that matters. You know what I mean? And where I had it twisted, to bring it into acting, where I had it twisted is, I have to be popular. I need to be able to text with Bradley Cooper. I need to be able to get invited to this award show. And that was a very kind of, that's a young man's game. Selfishness is a young man's game. And what I realize now is those are nice things. I love Bradley Cooper. It is fun to go out on a glitzy night on occasion. But on the real, I want to work with first-time directors. And I want to play a supporting role in this thing. And I just want to be in service and do what I do well and try to love people in it. Because, I think most of my life I thought I was a problem looking for an answer, but I'm actually an answer looking for a problem. And we all are. I took that phrase from T.D. Jakes, a minister, but I don't want people to think that was just me. But
that's a good one, though.
We are answers looking for problems. And we have to have that shift of mindset, because then you get to enjoy stuff and you don't feel so self-centered.
You said somewhere, having a child changed you.
Yes.
You said that, before this, your life revolved around acting. And now that you had this child, tell me how this changed your, it's almost like a cliche now. Everybody knows, that children change lives. People that have them. Your life has changed. Even people who are like, I keep hearing this, then they have a child, life changed. Life changing. But I want to know this in terms of you as, we can go and look at you telling stories about coming up in this business. They're amazing stories of perseverance, amazing stories of like going back to Illinois or wherever you were living and coming back to LA when you got a little bit of money, working at a bowling alley. There's so many stories. This is about paying your dues and believing in yourself. I'm just setting this up as like, this is not just somebody who's like trying this out and seeing if you can do it. You were always had this dream. You put in the time and the effort. You didn't give up.
Yeah.
But this child comes now, and I want to know how this deepens this, because it sounds like what you're saying is like, it's not that something changed in terms of your passion as an actor. It sounds like, and you tell me if I'm wrong, that this deepened it.
I'd have to self-reflect more to give the best answer, but the answer I'll give today would be, I love my wife and my son. They're the first thing other than acting in Hollywood that I've loved. They're the first thing that I've loved more than Hollywood and acting, is family. I always wanted to be a famous actor because of the reprioritization and the reality of my self-centeredness. I am now in a place of, I just want to be a good actor. And if you are a really good actor, maybe you'll become very famous, and that'll be the byproduct. But most famous people you talk to too, it's like they wish they weren't famous. I want to be really great, and I want to be one of the guys people talk about when I'm snoozing and I'm up in the sky. But like, it doesn't matter. That's ego. My ego is saying I need to win awards. And would it be fun? Yeah, I would love to be nominated for something. I would love to go to those fun dinners, and I would love for it to help my career and ultimately be the byproduct of like, or I'm not the byproduct, the causation for making more money and providing for my family. So in a way, it's like, yeah, all of this goes back to providing for them and getting better roles, and it enhances your life. It's not selfish, it's ambitious. But I do feel like a changed man through my wife and my son, realizing when I'm on my deathbed, if I'm saying, God, I should have worked with Anne Hathaway. God, I wish I would have worked with De Niro before he passed. I'm an idiot. I'm an abject fool. I'm a weird idiot person. I will only be saying, God, I wish I had more time with my family. So I'm doing what they call a pre-mortem. If I know I'm going to die someday, what do I not want to say on my deathbed, and how can I make sure that I take action steps to elicit a life that doesn't have those types of regrets? And in the meantime, if I end up on a sitcom or I'm the star of a Todd Field movie, like, awesome. Who gives a shit? I gave a shit because I had ego and wanted to be the next Phil Hoffman. And I wanted to be the next Chris Farley. And they're both not with us. So my message to anyone listening, be really good at what you do. Do it all to the glory of whatever God you choose. But do not delude yourself into believing that this is more important than your health and your family. And yeah, take away some acting advice because I gave some good shit. But also just take care of yourself. That's the real advice.
Paul Walter Hauser, thank you so much.
Yeah, bro. Thank you. That was fun.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of The Gotham, formerly IFP. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.